I think the thing I remember most about Clint Eastwood is that a year or so later.
Most people remember Robert Urich as the rugged, charming tough guy from shows like Spenser for Hire and Vegas. On screen, he consistently exuded strength, control, and a readiness to confront adversaries. But off-screen, his real life was a whole different story. Behind the cameras, Robert was fighting battles far more intense than any script could throw at him. But he wasn't fighting alone. His wife, actress Heather Menzies, stood by him every step of the way. And here's where the story takes another heartbreaking turn. Just a few years later, life also threw a curveball her way. So what happened to the couple? Join us today as we pull back the curtain on this one. From Toronto, Ohio, to the spotlight, not many actors can brag about starring in 15 different television series, but Robert Urich wasn't just any actor. With that smooth-as-silk voice, chiseled jawline, and that comforting everyman charm, he lit up the screen for 3 decades. But while millions saw a leading man who always came out on top, behind the scenes was a man facing battles that not even Hollywood could script. Robert Urich's story starts in the quiet town of Toronto, Ohio, not Canada. Born to John Paul and Cecilia Monica Urich, Robert had Russian and Slovak roots and was raised Byzantine Catholic. He was your classic all-American kid, an excellent athlete, a natural leader, and someone who always seemed destined for more. He earned a football scholarship to Florida State University, where, fun fact, he crossed paths with fellow future star Burt Reynolds. Robert played backup center on the football team, but his real magic wasn't on the field. He earned a degree in radio and television communications and then took it a step further with a master's in broadcast research and management from Michigan State University. He was ambitious, he was smart, he had plans. He even took voice lessons at the University of Chicago and worked for WGN-TV in sales, pulling in a meager $150 a week. But the kicker? He got fired. They found out he was moonlighting. Yep, Robert was hustling on the side, trying to break into acting, and that didn't sit well with his employers. He also gave the weatherman gig a try, but it didn't take long before he realized the green screen wasn't his final destination. In the early 70s, Robert finally made it onto television, and when he did, boy, did he shine. With each role, from SWAT to Vegas to Spenser for Hire, he became a staple of American living rooms. He wasn't flashy or scandalous. He was solid, dependable, and deeply likable. That rare combo made him one of TV's most trusted faces. He wasn't just working. He was working 15 different series, endless guest spots. He made it look easy. But success in the spotlight doesn't mean peace behind it. Making it big in Hollywood after performing in a Chicago stage production of The Rainmaker with his old college buddy Burt Reynolds, Robert Urich made a bold move that would change his life forever. Reynolds, already on his way to becoming a Hollywood heavyweight, pulled him aside and said, "You've got it, kid. Move to LA and give this acting thing a real shot." That was all Urich needed to hear. He packed his bags and went for it. Not long after landing in Los Angeles, Urich scored his first TV role, a guest spot on the FBI in 1972. It wasn't a major part, but it was enough to get his foot in the door. Just a year later, he landed a lead role in the TV adaptation of Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice. Big break, right? Not exactly. The show tanked in the ratings and was canceled after only 6 episodes. But Urich wasn't discouraged, he was just getting started. That same year, he made his film debut, and it wasn't in some no-name indie. He starred opposite Clint Eastwood in Magnum Force, a gritty Dirty Harry sequel. Urich played a motorcycle cop with a vigilante streak. It was dark, it was intense, and it proved he could handle big-screen drama just as well as TV. Then came 1975 and another twist of fate involving Burt Reynolds. Reynolds, still looking out for his friend, convinced TV powerhouse Aaron Spelling to give Urich a shot at reading for a role in his new action-packed series SWAT. Spelling agreed, and the moment Urich read for the part, Spelling was hooked. He cast him as Officer Jim Street, the young, cool-headed cop in the elite unit. The show was a mid-season replacement, but it exploded with viewers. SWAT had all the action, all the adrenaline, and Urich became a TV star overnight. But just as quickly as the show rose, it fell. Critics slammed it for being too violent, and by 1976, SWAT was off the air. Still, Urich kept moving. In 1977, he landed a comedic role on the hit sitcom Soap, playing Peter the tennis player. The part was brief but memorable. That same year, he got cast in Tabitha, a spin-off of Bewitched, playing Paul Thurston, a handsome, self-absorbed talk show host. The show started off strong in the ratings, but poor scheduling caused it to fizzle out after just 13 episodes. Tabitha was canceled in 1978. The role that made Robert Urich then came the role that truly made him a household name, Vega. Once again teaming up with Aaron Spelling, Urich was cast as Dan Tana, a stylish private investigator solving crimes in the neon-soaked streets of Las Vegas. To fully embody the tough guy detective, Urich didn't just show up, he showed out. He bulked up, packing on 40 pounds of solid muscle, jumping from 180 to 220 pounds of lean on-screen power. The result? Vega became a hit almost instantly. Maybe it was the Vegas backdrop, maybe it was the flashy cars and high-stakes action, but most likely, it was Urich. He owned the role, and fans couldn't get enough. The show earned him 2 Golden Globe nominations and solidified his place as a true TV leading man. But even stars burn out sometimes. By its 3rd season, Vega was starting to slide in the ratings. Without much support from the network, ABC pulled the plug in June 1981. Just like that, the lights of Vegas went out. But Robert Urich? He was far from finished. After Vega, Robert Urich didn't slow down. He just shifted gears. He signed a deal with MGM and set his sights on film. His first movie under the studio was Endangered Species, a sci-fi thriller directed by Alan Rudolph. The film didn't blow up the box office, but it marked a new chapter for Urich, movie star ambitions. Still, TV kept calling him back. He returned to the small screen in Gavilan, where he played a former CIA agent turned oceanographer. Sounds cool, right? Unfortunately, viewers didn't bite. The show was canceled after just 7 episodes. But Urich didn't dwell on it. In 1984, he starred in 2 films, the offbeat space comedy The Ice Pirates and Wes Craven's Invitation to Hell, a horror flick that leaned into the bizarre. Both were bold choices, though neither became massive hits. Then came Turk 182. In 1985, a drama with heart, but again, not a commercial success. That same year, though, he struck gold again on TV. Urich landed what would become one of his most iconic roles, Spenser, for Hire. As the tough, streetwise private eye with a heart, he captivated audiences for 3 solid seasons. Even after the series ended, Urich wasn't done with the character. He reprised the role in several made-for-TV movies throughout the 90s, Ceremony, Pale Kings and Princes, The Judas Goat, and A Savage Place. And while he was busy being everyone's favorite TV detective, he added host to his resume. In 1988, he began hosting National Geographic Explorer, where he showed a more cerebral, curious side. That gig won him a Cable ACE award. Then came one of the most critically acclaimed projects of his career, Lonesome Dove, 1989. Urich played Jake Spoon, a former Texas Ranger with a tragic arc. The miniseries was a hit, and critics praised Urich's performance for its depth and emotional punch. In the 90s, his career kept moving, but not everything stuck. He took roles in a string of short-lived shows and TV movies, from American Dreamer, 1990, to 83 Hours, Till Dawn and Crossroads, 1992. Urich kept trying to find another breakout series. In 1993, he teamed up with Faye Dunaway in It Had to Be You, a sitcom that flopped fast, 4 episodes, and it was over. In 1995, he narrated a rare Disney documentary, Alien Encounters from New Tomorrowland. It aired once, then vanished, becoming a near myth among Disney fans. The lawsuit then came The Lazarus Man in 1996, a Western drama that gave Urich one of his strongest late-career roles. Viewers loved it, and it was renewed for a 2nd season. But then came devastating news. Urich had been diagnosed with synovial sarcoma, a rare form of cancer. Instead of supporting him, the show's production company, Castle Rock Entertainment, abruptly canceled the series. Urich later called them out, They didn't ask if I could still work, they just pulled the plug. He sued in 2000 for breach of contract, and though the lawsuit was settled privately, the message was clear: he wasn't backing down. Even as he battled cancer, Urich kept working. In 1997, he hosted Vital Signs, a medical documentary series, and also fronted the PBS show Boatworks. By 1998, he was declared cancer-free and jumped right back into acting, starring as Captain Jim Kennedy III in Love Boat: The Next Wave. It ran for 2 seasons on UPN. Urich even hit Broadway, making his debut in Chicago as the slick-talking lawyer Billy Flynn. He toured with the show in 1999 and 2000, proving he still had stage presence and charisma to spare. In 2001, he joined the cast of Emeril, a sitcom built around celebrity chef Emeril Lagasse. The show didn't click with critics or audiences, but Urich's performance was one of the few bright spots. It would be his last series. His final performance came in Night of the Wolf, a made-for-TV movie that aired on Animal Planet the night before he passed. Robert Urich's cancer diagnosis in July 1996. Robert Urich revealed to the public that he had been diagnosed with synovial sarcoma, a rare form of cancer that attacks the soft tissues of the body. It was a heavy blow, but Urich didn't retreat. Instead, he faced the diagnosis head-on, with grit, grace, and relentless optimism. Even as he underwent aggressive treatments, he kept working. He didn't just fight for himself, he became a voice for others. Urich poured his energy into cancer awareness, speaking out about the importance of early detection and research. His efforts didn't go unnoticed. He received several honors, including an award from the John Wayne Cancer Institute and the Gilda Radner Courage Award, both recognizing his strength and advocacy. Together with his wife, Heather Menzies, he launched the Urich Fund at the University of Michigan Comprehensive Cancer Center, channeling support and resources into cancer research. He didn't just lend his name, he gave from his wallet too. After appearing on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, Urich donated his $125,000 in winnings directly to the fund. By 1998, the hard-fought battles seemed to have paid off. Urich was declared cancer-free, and in a moment of triumph, was named the national spokesperson for the American Cancer Society. He used the platform to inspire, to educate, and to prove that a cancer diagnosis wasn't the end of the road. But the disease was never far behind. In November 2001, Urich shared in an interview that doctors had found new lumps. Still, he remained hopeful. A new medication was working, and once again he was optimistic. Sadly, the fight took its final turn. In April 2002, just a week before his death, Urich was admitted to Los Robles Hospital and Medical Center in Thousand Oaks, California, with breathing complications. On April 16, 2002, he passed away at the age of 55. His wife, Heather, and their 3 children were by his side. A funeral mass was held 3 days later, on April 19, at St. Charles Borromeo Church in North Hollywood. His body was cremated, and his ashes were interred at the family's vacation home in Prince Edward County, Ontario, Canada. A quiet memorial now stands in the West Lake Church of Christ Cemetery near that home, a peaceful tribute to a man who gave his all, both on screen and off. Robert Urich's marriage before his death. Robert was married twice. His first marriage was to actress Barbara Rucker in 1968. The relationship didn't last, and they divorced in 1974. A year later, in 1975, he married actress Heather Menzies. They stayed together until his death in 2002 and adopted 3 children along the way. It was a solid marriage, built on shared values, compassion, and a common love for family and acting. Heather Margaret Brotherston Menzies was born in Toronto on December 3, 1949, to Scottish parents who had immigrated to Canada after World War II. Her father was a struggling artist, and by the time Heather turned 14, she had lived in Vancouver, Miami, London, and Southern California. She had a younger sister named Sheila and an older brother, Neil, who passed away in 2019. She graduated from John Burroughs High School in Burbank in 1967 and later studied acting at Falcon Studios University of the Arts. Her first screen appearance came in 1964 on the TV series The Farmer's Daughter. At just 14 years old, She landed her breakthrough role as Louisa Von Trapp in The Sound of Music. She had no formal acting experience, but she held her own among the talented cast, singing So Long, Farewell, and The Lonely Goatherd. During the film's iconic rowboat scene, it was Heather who rescued young Kim Carruth, Gretel, who had fallen into the water and couldn't swim. Menzies had a long, varied career in both television and film. She appeared in popular series like Bonanza, Dragnet, Alias Smith and Jones, Room 222, Marcus Welby, MD, T.J. Hooker, and even Vegadollar alongside her husband. She starred as Jessica Six in the cult sci-fi series Logan's Run and was featured in films like Hawaii, How Sweet It Is, Piranha, and Endangered Species. In 1973, she posed for Playboy in a pictorial titled Tender Trap, a nod to her Sound of Music roots. She and Urich met in 1974 while filming a commercial where they pretended to get married. Life imitated art soon after, and they became a real couple, raising 3 adopted children and building a life of purpose and commitment. After Urich's death from cancer in 2002, Heather continued his mission, founding the Robert Urich Foundation to raise money for cancer research and to support patients and families. She became a tireless advocate for the cause, dedicating her time and energy to it for the rest of her life. She had also survived ovarian cancer years earlier, which only deepened her resolve. In November 2017, Heather was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. Just weeks later, on December 24, 2017, she passed away at the age of 68, surrounded by her family. Her son, Ryan Urich, said, "She was an actress and a ballerina and loved living her life to the fullest." She was not in any pain, but nearly 4 weeks after her diagnosis of terminal brain cancer, she had enough and took her last breath on this earth at 7:22 p.m. Together, Robert and Heather helped raise funds for the Eccles Performing Arts Center at Park City High School in Utah. After his death, the school created the Robert Urich Scholarship in his memory. The couple also co-founded the Robert and Heather Urich Fund for Sarcoma Research at the University of Michigan. Their advocacy helped pave the way for others navigating the same painful road. In his hometown of Toronto, Ohio, a highway interchange was named the Robert Urich Interchange in his honor. For his work in television, he earned a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame at 7083 Hollywood Boulevard. For years, he was the only person with a last name starting with U on the walk, until Usher joined him. Both gone but not forgotten. Through their children, their foundation, and the lives they touched, the legacy of Robert Urich and Heather Menzies lives on. Robert Urich's children Robert and Heather Menzies Urich's path to parenthood was not easy. After suffering multiple miscarriages, they turned to adoption. Their first 2 children, Ryan and Emily, were born in 1978 and 1980. Nearly 2 decades later, in 1998, they adopted a 3rd child, Allison Grady Urich. Robert was a hands-on, emotionally present father, warm, supportive, and deeply engaged in his children's lives. That tenderness shaped their family, especially in the face of adversity. When Robert's cancer returned around the time Ryan was about to graduate high school, it was a hard blow for the entire family. Still, Ryan, Emily, and Allison stood by their father through his final months, just as Heather had done for him over 15 years earlier when his battle first began. Of the 3 children, Ryan was the only one who initially showed an interest in following his parents into acting. He appeared in a few projects, including Nightwalk and The Killer Inside, but eventually he walked away from the entertainment industry altogether, driven by something deeper. Ryan Urich is now an infectious disease specialist with Lovelace Medical Group in New Mexico. His journey into medicine was inspired directly by his father's fight with cancer. In interviews, Ryan has shared that the experience of watching his father suffer and feeling helpless was life-changing. He couldn't save his dad, but with a medical degree, he realized he could save someone else's. That sense of purpose has guided him ever since. Emily and Allison, on the other hand, have chosen to live quieter lives outside the public eye. But as a family, they've kept their parents' legacy alive, not just through the Robert Urich Foundation or the scholarships in their names, but in the way they carry themselves, with grace, conviction, and compassion. What has Ryan said about his father? Of all the 3 children, It's Ryan who publicly speaks about his father the most. As a father, Robert often chose connection over correction. When Ryan spoke of his father, he recalled instances when he got in trouble at school. Instead of scolding him, Robert got on the floor, eye level with his son, and gently opened the door to conversation. He wanted to understand, not just discipline. That gentle approach defined his parenting. With his daughters, he brought the same attentiveness, celebrating even the smallest milestones with genuine pride. In his final days, weakened by illness, he still found the energy to play with his youngest, Allison, just days before her 4th birthday. His battle with cancer was long and grueling, stretching across 6 relentless years and 3 separate diagnoses. The first round left him shaken, but he faced it with resilience. He endured surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation, losing his hair but not his determination. He returned to work as soon as he could, hosting on assignment for National Geographic, a show that took him to far-flung corners of the world even while fighting for his life. When his cancer returned during Ryan's last year of high school, the disease had grown fiercer. Robert's body had become sensitive to even the smallest movement. On the way to chemotherapy appointments, Ryan drove with painstaking care, avoiding every bump in the road, trying to shield his father from pain. Robert passed away in 2002, just as Ryan was studying biology in college. The experience of watching his father suffer and being unable to help became a turning point. Ryan channeled his grief into purpose, eventually becoming a doctor, an infectious disease specialist in New Mexico. His sister, Emily, also found her calling in medicine and now works as an emergency room nurse. Their career paths weren't random. They were shaped by witnessing both the brutality of cancer and the compassion their parents showed through it all. Robert's wife, Menzies Urich, had already survived ovarian cancer when she helped establish the Robert Urich Foundation to support cancer research and patients. After Robert's death, she devoted much of her life to the cause. In 2017, she, too, was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. She passed away just 4 weeks later, surrounded by her children. Today, the Urich children carry that legacy forward, not just in their careers but through their ongoing work with the Urich Foundation. Their parents may be gone, but the values they instilled, compassion, strength, and service, live on in every life their children touch. The many controversies of Burt Reynolds. Although Robert Urich was widely admired for his humility, kindness, and unwavering devotion to family and philanthropy, his close friend Burt Reynolds lived a far more turbulent and controversial life, especially when it came to his romantic relationships. Nowhere was this more evident than in his high-profile marriage to actress Lonnie Anderson, a union that began with Hollywood sparkle but ended in public spectacle and personal ruin. Reynolds and Anderson were a tabloid dream in the 1980s. He was the mustachioed star of Smokey and the Bandit and one of the biggest box office draws of his era. She was the glamorous blonde from WRP in Cincinnati, adored for her comedic timing and bombshell looks. Together, they represented the ideal Hollywood couple, at least on the surface. Their romance officially began in the early 1980s, marked by frequent breakups and reconciliations. When they finally married in 1988, it was in a ceremony as extravagant as the public had come to expect from 2 stars of their caliber. But behind the closed doors of their mansion, their marriage was beginning to rot. The relationship quickly unraveled, marred by arguments, clashing egos, and allegations of infidelity. While the couple initially kept their struggles private, everything spilled into the public in 1993 when Reynolds filed for divorce. What followed was one of the messiest, most expensive splits in Hollywood history. The divorce became headline fodder, filled with damaging accusations from both sides. Reynolds painted Anderson as reckless with money, claiming she contributed to his growing financial problems. Anderson countered with accusations of emotional and physical abuse. The public ate it up, and the media's obsession with their fallout only intensified the emotional damage. At the time, Reynolds was already grappling with the decline of his acting career and a growing mountain of debt. The legal battle with Anderson pushed him further into financial ruin, eventually leading him to file for bankruptcy. The fallout didn't just hurt him personally, it tarnished his reputation and stalled his once thriving career. Anderson walked away from the marriage with a reported $10 million settlement, a sum that included alimony, prime real estate, and valuable assets. For Reynolds, it wasn't just a blow to his bank account, it marked the start of a downward spiral that would eventually lead to his filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 1996. At that point, his debts had ballooned to $10 million, the equivalent of nearly $20 million today. Despite being one of Hollywood's most bankable stars just a decade earlier, Reynolds found himself scrambling to stay afloat. He publicly admitted to borrowing money from friends just to keep up with alimony payments. His lavish lifestyle, dwindling career opportunities, and legal entanglements only made things worse. Then came more trouble. Not long after the dust had settled from his divorce, Reynolds became entangled in another legal battle, this time with his longtime girlfriend, Pamela Seals. The relationship, which lasted nearly a decade, ended in a bitter standoff that exploded into a lawsuit. Reynolds accused Seals of trying to extort millions from him by threatening to falsely accuse him of abuse if he didn't agree to a generous financial settlement. According to the lawsuit, Seals demanded half of Reynolds' Florida home, financial support for herself and her mother, and additional compensation. Reynolds offered a $1 million settlement, which Seals refused. His legal team dismissed her demands as nothing short of blackmail, emphasizing that since the couple had never married, she was legally entitled to nothing under Florida law. The suit sought to prevent Seals from pursuing legal action in California, where the two had lived temporarily. Reynolds, 68 at the time, issued a restrained statement, calling the situation unfortunate, but made it clear he wouldn't cave to pressure or false allegations. His lawyer, Bob Montgomery, noted that the actor had managed to recover from his earlier financial troubles, but the ordeal with Seals was yet another chapter in Reynolds' long and complicated personal life. Eventually, the two found common ground. While Reynolds' on-screen charisma remained undeniable, his legacy cemented by iconic roles in Deliverance, Smokey and the Bandit, and Boogie Nights, off-screen, Burt Reynolds' life was riddled with costly relationships, high-profile legal battles, and years of financial instability. Unlike his friend Robert Urich, who was remembered for his steady, grounded personal life, Reynolds' final years told the story of a Hollywood icon whose personal missteps often threatened to overshadow his legendary career. While Robert Urich quietly battled cancer with dignity and left behind a legacy of integrity and purpose, Burt Reynolds' personal life often played out like a cautionary tale. He remained a beloved screen icon, but unlike Urich, his name was as often associated with scandal as it was with his achievements. In the end, Reynolds and Anderson's story became a stark contrast to the kind of stable, values-driven life Urich had built. What did you think of Robert Urich and Burt Reynolds' friendship? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to check out the next video on your screen, you will enjoy it.